It was the Prime Minister's questions today, and as always, it was going to be a fiery one following Labour's decision to cut the winter fuel allowance for pensioners. The opposition, led by Sunak, asked Starmer simply to publish the impact assessment on how many pensioners will now die following their decision to remove it. His answer? Well, you can watch it for yourself. Hit the like and subscribe button and let's get into it.
I want to hear the question.
Mr. Speaker, when I was in government, I delivered record increases in the state pension. We protected the winter fuel payment and we gave pensioners cost of living benefits. He's the one that's taking money away from pensioners on £13,000, Mr. Speaker. But this has got nothing to do with the public finances. His own Chancellor just this morning, his MPs may not have been listening to her, his own Chancellor this morning admitted that she would prefer it if this policy didn't even raise any money, Mr. Speaker. Obviously, the government would not have made this decision without an impact analysis. And yesterday, the Energy Minister confirmed that. So I ask, very simply again, why won't he publish the assessment now?
Mr. Speaker, I remember the days when the Conservative Party was to be concerned about balancing the books. They've left a £22 billion black hole. Responsibility for this decision lies there. The only way to rebuild our country and invest in our public services and make sure everyone is better off is if we clear up their mess and deal with the £22 billion black hole. But, Mr. Speaker, last week we learned that the Shadow Housing Secretary was calling for means testing of winter fuel payments. Now it turns out that the Shadow Paymaster General agrees with her and even boasted about texting his own mother saying she didn't need the payment. Until he apologises for the mess they've created, he's no position to criticise the action that we're taking.
Mr. Speaker, they're shouting now, but those arguments didn't even convince 50 of his own MPs, who suddenly found that they had urgent business elsewhere yesterday, Mr. Speaker. But we know why he's hiding the impact assessment. The Labour Party's own previous analysis claimed that this policy could cause 3,850 deaths. So are the numbers in his impact assessment higher or lower than that?
Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, we're taking this decision to stabilise the economy. That means we can commit to the triple lock. By committing to the triple lock, we can make sure that payments of state pension are higher and therefore there's more money in the pocket of pensioners, notwithstanding the tough action that we need to take. But he goes around pretending that everything's fine. That's the argument he tried in the election. And that's why he's sitting there and we are sitting here.
Mr. Speaker, today pensioners watching will have seen that the Prime Minister has repeatedly refused to admit or to publish the consequences of his decision, and we will continue holding him account for that. But changing...
In other news, Rachel Reeves has admitted she was really angry after prisoners were seen popping champagne following their early release from jail under Labour's plans to curb overcrowding. Inmates who were part of the first 1,750 early release criminals were snapped celebrating outside a number of prisons across the UK, with us even witnessing a group of people smoking cannabis while an unmarked police car watched on. Reeves joined the growing number of MPs to voice concern about the situation witnessed yesterday. However, the Chancellor appeared more keen to take aim at the previous Tory government over its handling of prisons. Speaking in an interview, political editor Christopher Hope at Silverstone UTC, the Chancellor said, "It makes me really angry. It makes me really angry the inheritance that the previous government left, whether it's the £22 billion black hole in public finances or failing to build the prison places that are necessary to keep criminals locked up. We will make sure that those prison places are available, but we have had to make the tough decisions to clear up the awful mess the previous government left for us." Labour's plan to deal with overcrowding was announced by Justice Secretary Shabana Mahmood in July. Mahmood yesterday suggested inmates who risk being left homeless could be temporarily housed in taxpayer-funded hotels, amid concern about spaces in bail hostels and other community accommodation typically used for offenders. Labour's plan is to free up 5,500 beds by cutting the minimum limit from 50% to 40% for offenders serving sentences of fewer than 5 years. The scheme will expand to include offenders serving fixed sentences of more than 5 years on October 22nd. However, an 18-year-old killer convicted of manslaughter over the death of a teenage boy in a machete attack was among those to benefit from Sir Keir Starmer's early release scheme. Lawson Natty was judged eligible for the scheme because he was sentenced to 2 years and 8 months, below the 4-year threshold, above which he would have been excluded. Actor Jason Hoganson was also freed early from jail on Tuesday after being sentenced to 18 months in jail for assaulting his former girlfriend in the street. Ex-Immigration Minister Robert Jenrick was among the Tory MPs to voice concern about the scenes outside HMP Wandsworth yesterday. The Tory leadership hopeful said, "Today is a day of shame for our criminal justice system. The solution is simple: build more prisons and lock up prolific offenders for longer." Fellow leadership contender James Cleverly added, "The fact is, Labour have bowed to pressure. They've taken what they thought was the easy option, and we are now living with the consequences. This is about poor decision-making by the Labour Party." During Reeves's sit-down interview, the Chancellor also addressed the UK's economy flatlining and yesterday's decision to push ahead with scrapping winter fuel payments for 10 million pensioners. Defending last night's vote, the Chancellor said, "This government faced a £22 billion black hole in the public finances, but we were determined to protect the poorest pensioners, which is why pension credit and the winter fuel payment will continue to be paid to those pensioners who need support." Reeves also confirmed Labour is committed to uphold the triple lock over the course of this Parliament, adding, "This winter, the new state pension is worth £900 more than a year ago, and next April it is likely to go up by a further £460. In other news, a leading think tank has indicated that Labour will look to increase the rate of fuel duty in the upcoming autumn statement, potentially acting as a hammer blow for petrol and diesel drivers. Labour will unveil its first budget on October 30th, with Chancellor Rachel Reeves looking to make cuts that will fill the £22 billion funding black hole left by the previous Conservative government. Prime Minister Keir Starmer has already conceded that Labour will be forced to make difficult decisions in the budget, warning Britons to prepare for painful announcements. One of the most pressing issues which the government may need to deal with includes the 5p per litre fuel duty cut, which has remained frozen since 2022. What are your thoughts on what we discussed in today's video? Let me know down in the comments section below. If you've not yet already, make sure you do drop a like on this video and subscribe to the channel for more British content. Thank you. Take care. Goodbye.